First, let's start with what's just happened at SDNY, Southern District of New York, the federal prosecutor's office there. The New York Times was first to report on these developments today, and here's how they led their initial report. Quote, Manhattan's U.S. attorney on Thursday resigned rather than obey an order from a top Justice Department official to drop the corruption case against New York City's mayor, Eric Adams. Then, when DOJ officials transferred the case to the Public Integrity Section at Main Justice in Washington, which oversees corruption cases, the two men who led that unit at Main Justice, quote, also resigned. NBC News' Ryan Riley reports tonight that 3 additional officials in the Public Integrity Section at Main Justice also resigned after meeting the same top Justice Department official, who is Trump appointee and Trump defense counsel, acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove. So if you're wondering what kind of day it's been thus far at the U.S. Department of Justice, it's a 6 resignation kind of day thus far. But just to get the import here, just back up for a second. The mayor of New York City is Eric Adams. He's a Democrat. He's elected in 2021. The people of New York who elected Adams largely on his tough on crime platform would soon learn that federal prosecutors at SDNY in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, federal prosecutors started investigating him in 2021, even before he took office, because they were looking into what appeared to be serious irregularities in his campaign fundraising. And this past September, Eric Adams became the first sitting mayor of New York City to ever be charged with federal crimes. He was indicted on a whole raft of charges involving allegedly fraudulent campaign contributions, also a rip-snorting alleged bribery scheme in which he allegedly took campaign funds and gifts and luxury travel from agents of the government of Turkey in exchange for doing favors for the government of Turkey. But the charges themselves were pretty straightforward corruption charges. You know, local politician charged with accepting money he's not legally allowed to accept. And in some cases, he's charged with allegedly doing official favors in exchange for that money. Prosecutors in SDNY indicted Eric Adams in September. Mayor Adams vowed to stay in office, vowed to fight the charges. He was given a trial date of this spring, April of this year, to have his day in court. But then Donald Trump was sworn in as president, and this week, Donald Trump's Justice Department ordered the federal prosecutors in SDNY to drop their case against Adams, to drop the charges. Not because they said they had some new evidence vindicating Adams, but because, according to the new Trump appointees at Main Justice, the mayor was the victim of a political persecution. But here is something to note about the way they ordered the charges dropped against Mayor Adams. And I don't think this has gotten enough attention. In the memo from, Donald Trump's personal lawyer, who's the acting Deputy Attorney General, Emil Bove, the Southern District prosecutors were told by him that they needed to dismiss the charges without prejudice, which is a legal term that means the charges could be brought later, could be brought back again at a later time. The charges against Eric Adams, quote, shall be reviewed by the confirmed U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York following the November 2025 mayoral election, based on consideration of all relevant factors. So we're putting these charges on ice for now, so Eric Adams can run his re-election campaign without technically being under indictment, and then we'll see how we feel. And maybe we'll bring the charges back based on consideration of all the relevant factors. Talk about having leverage over somebody, right? It prompted this headline from Josh Marshall at his news site TPM, quote, Donald Trump is now the mayor of New York. Quote, think what this means. Adams isn't off the hook. He's essentially been given 10 months to perform for his freedom, to perform for Donald Trump. And what might the Trump administration want from the mayor of America's largest city? Well, from the Justice Department memo ordering SDNY to drop the charges, quote, the pending prosecution has unduly restricted the mayor's ability to devote full attention and resources to illegal immigration. Oh, I see. Sure enough. Got it. And Sure enough, today, Eric Adams met with Donald Trump's point man on mass deportations, and Mayor Adams promptly announced that he's going to start allowing federal immigration agents into the city's biggest jail complex, even though there is a city law explicitly against that. Interesting how much he wants to please Donald Trump right now, right? I wonder why that is. But here's why today was a 6 resignation day at the U.S. Justice Department. Because even though the acting Deputy Attorney General, Trump's personal lawyer, Emil Bove, ordered that the charges against Eric Adams had to be dropped. He ordered those charges to be dropped on Monday. We've been sort of watching all week, wondering what's going to happen, because here's Thursday, and as of this morning, those charges still had not been dropped. He ordered them dropped on Monday. What's going on? Well, the reason they hadn't been dropped is because SDNY said, no, we're not going to do it. The acting U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York said, talk to the hand. Now, this was somebody specifically chosen by Trump to fill this role until they got their own nominee confirmed. She is a registered Republican. She's a prosecutor with what the New York Times calls bulletproof conservative credentials. She's in the Federalist Society. She clerked for Scalia. But when she was ordered by Maine Justice to drop the charges against Mayor Adams, this acting U.S. attorney, her name is Danielle Sassoon, she wrote this remarkable memo to Pam Bondi, Trump's newly confirmed attorney general. She said, quote, I deem it necessary to the faithful discharge of my duties to raise the concerns expressed in this letter with you and to request an opportunity to meet to discuss them further. The reasons advanced by the acting Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Bove, for dismissing the indictment are not ones I can in good faith defend as in the public interest and as consistent with the principles of impartiality and fairness that guide my decision-making. Mr. Bove proposes dismissing the charges against Adams in return for his assistance in enforcing federal immigration laws, analogizing to the prisoner exchange in which the U.S. freed notorious Russian arms dealer Victor Bout in return for an American prisoner in Russia. Such an exchange with Adams violates common sense beliefs in the equal administration of justice, the Justice Manual, and the rules of professional conduct. Adams has argued in substance, and Mr. Bove appears prepared to concede, that the mayor should receive leniency for federal crimes solely because he occupies an important public position and can use that position to assist in the administration's policy priorities. In your words, and she's quoting Pam Bondi to herself here, quote, DOJ will not tolerate abuses of the criminal justice process, coercive behavior, or other forms of misconduct. Danielle Sassoon says then, quote, dismissal of the indictment for no other reason than to influence Adams's mayoral decision-making would be all three. Rather than be rewarded, Adams's advocacy should be called out for what it is, an improper offer of immigration enforcement assistance in exchange for a dismissal of his case. Although Mr. Bove disclaimed any intention to exchange leniency in this case for Adams's assistance in enforcing federal law, that is the nature of the bargain laid bare in Mr. Bove's memo. That is especially so given Mr. Bove's comparison to the Victor Bout prisoner exchange, which was quite expressly a quid pro quo, but one carried out by the White House and not by the prosecutors in charge of Bout's case. Ms. Sassoon notes in a footnote here, and this is like actually maybe the most explosive thing in the entire thing. This is a footnote. She says, quote, I attended a meeting on January 31st, 2025 with Mr. Bove, Mayor Adams's counsel, and members of my office. Mayor Adams's attorneys repeatedly urged what amounted to a quid pro quo, indicating that Adams would be in a position to assist with the department's enforcement priorities only if the indictment were dismissed. Mr. Bove admonished a member of my team who took...
Our colleague Jonathan Deans has obtained that resignation letter from Hagan Scott, an assistant United States attorney who was on the Adams case. I'm going to read from certain sections of it. The New York Times and other publications have put this out as well. It says that, in short, the first justification for the motion, this is the motion to dismiss the case, that Damian Williams' role in the case somehow tainted a valid indictment supported by ample evidence and pursued under 4 different U.S. attorneys is so weak as to be transparently pretextual. The second justification is worse. No system of ordered liberty can allow the government to use the carrot of dismissing charges or the stick of threatening to bring them again to induce an elected official to support its policy objectives. I'm going to skip down into the letter a little bit. Any assistant U.S. attorney would know that our laws and traditions do not allow using the prosecutorial power to influence other citizens, much less of elected officials, in this way. If no lawyer within earshot of the president is willing to give him that advice, then I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion. But it was never going to be me. Wow. Please consider this my resignation. It has been an honor to serve as a prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. That's one of the line prosecutors who is involved in this case. What he is effectively saying is, Emil Bovee, you should talk to the president. He may think that this is some sort of a business negotiation, some sort of leverage, some sort of something that you're going to have here. But he is effectively speaking to the point that we opened the show with, the point that I was making, which is that there's serious concern that this is effectively coercion, saying to the mayor of the city of New York, we need your help on immigration, and in turn, we can help with these charges. They're saying that there are serious legal concerns.
So, folks, more and more people keep stepping away, and we're going to see this. This is the entire legal apparatus storming the Oval Office and saying, Donald, here, on your desk, my resignation. I cannot abide what you're doing. And I know there's, people have complicated feelings about this, right? That, one of the tensions is that, you would, never want to work for Trump. I would never want to work for Trump. Let's just put it this way. If you got offered a job to work at Trump Tower today, and it paid a pretty decent wage, would you accept it? I wouldn't, and I know most of you wouldn't either. But imagine if you were in the federal government right now, already there, and you were one of the sane people, and, if you leave, you're going to be replaced by a MAGA nut job. So I understand the tension. But ultimately, people have to do what they feel is right. And there's a difference between I can sit in this job and hold down the fort and stop a nut job from taking it, and that's a good thing, versus I'm already being weaponized for evil and I can stand with it no longer. These are the people you need. They don't just follow orders. They are actively saying we will not be a cog in fascism, and I applaud them.